Hello and welcome to the Mindful Muslim podcast, where this time I spoke to Lauren Greaves. We spoke about her experience with diabetes and bulimia, as well as her transplant journey. Do make sure to listen. Hi, Lauren Greaves. So, thank you so much for joining me today.
You're welcome.
Tell us about yourself. Obviously, we know each other a little bit from back in secondary school.
Yes.
But introduce yourself to our audience. Who are you? Start with your name.
I'm Lauren Greaves. I'm 25.
What else?
I'm pretty boring.
No, I think you'll find your
I just have a lot of life stuff going on.
Yeah.
I was a healthcare assistant training to do my nursing, but I had to stop.
What year was this?
This was last year, actually. Had to stop because I got unwell. And since then, I've just been working on getting back to good health.
Was that a sudden thing?
Well, I've had diabetes since I was 10.
So you were diagnosed when you were 10?
10, yeah. Bad diabetes control has caused a lot of problems.
I see. So what happened? Do you remember that initial diagnosis? Do you remember going?
Oh, yeah. It was a summer holiday and I was just drinking and peeing like crazy. And my nana was like, you're drinking and peeing way too much. And I was really active. I was fat, but I was active.
I'm sure you were not fat.
I was fat. And I got really tired. I didn't want to do anything.
Okay.
And then...
So those kind of symptoms were there?
Yeah. My aunt's a nurse, so I went to her house. She took my blood sugar, and it was 26. And it's supposed to be in between 4 and 7.
4 and 7.
Yeah, and she was like, yeah, this is too high. So we went to St. George's. She called my mum. I was waiting for about an hour.
Yeah.
They tried to do a blood test on me, but they couldn't get any blood. So they just took like another like finger prick.
Yeah.
And my blood sugar went up to 31.
Oh my gosh.
And they were like, do you feel okay? You should be in a coma. And I'm like, yeah, I feel fine. Can I go home now? And they were like, no. So they admitted me to a children's ward.
Yeah.
The doctor came in and was like, I don't usually do this without the full test, but you've got diabetes. And I just remembered, okay, what's diabetes?
You haven't heard of it,
No,
probably.
my mum was crying. I was like,
Was
am
she?
I dying? Like, why are you crying? I was 10.
That's hard for you, very hard.
Yeah, and they were like, this means injections for the rest of your life. At that time, diabetes wasn't, like in children, wasn't really like established.
Prominent or okay.
So the regimen was very strict, like 2 injections a day, check your blood sugar every 2 hours. If you have toast, this is scraping of butter on your toast, cornflakes. Who eats cornflakes? They are the nastiest cereal I've ever had. The diet was just it was too strict.
So those are some of the things that you could have.
Yeah.
What were the things that you couldn't eat?
Things high in sugar. You're not allowed a lot of fruit because fruit have natural sugars in it. Like fizzy drink would have to be like diet or whatever. Cordial like squash, no added sugar. So I remember coming home from the hospital and my kitchen looked completely different. Like, there was no jam. If I had jam, it was no added sugar. Have you had no added sugar jam? Oh my God.
Haven't had the privilege.
Don't. It's disgusting.
Oh no.
But yeah, just my diet completely changed and it was very strict.
So some of the things you couldn't have were things that contained even natural sugars
in it,
things high in sugars. And then what happened after that? So how did your mum then deal with it, your family?
I think at that time, my mum took control of like what I ate,
Yes.
the insulin.
Yes.
Okay, Lauren, it's time to get
She
into
managed
now.
it and helped you, of course.
And then I left for secondary school. And when I should have been taking my insulin, I wasn't. When I should have been checking my blood sugar in school, I wasn't. I was eating whatever I wanted. Like my school bag was always full of rubbish, donuts,
Really,
crisp, croissants. Like it was. I just didn't care because I was like, why'd I have to deal with this? How old was we? Like 12. These are the last thing I should be worrying about. And then as I got older, it just got worse. So they changed my my insulin, so it was taking 4 injections a day now instead of 2.
Oh gosh.
Which it gave me more flexibility, but
was that still during secondary school?
Yeah.
Okay.
So this must have been when I was maybe like 14, 15. They changed it. So I should have been taking insulin at school. I'd leave my pen at home. I just didn't care. I didn't care enough.
Do you think any of that was social pressure or friends, or do you think
I think at that time I just wanted to be like everyone else. Like no one else had to do it. I was always worrying about it.
Did you think that maybe people would just see you differently?
Yeah, like I didn't want to be pitied. Like obviously the teachers knew, and they'd be like, "Lauren, are you okay?" And
but not really many friends knew.
No, well, I think all my friends knew, but it's not something I really spoke about. So I just think people kind of just like, oh, she's most probably taking it, or she's gone to the toilet to take it. I never liked to do it in front of people. People would ask, "Oh, can I see?" And I'd be like, "I'm not a circus clown," but I'd do it. I'd be like, "Yeah, oh, doesn't it hurt?" No. Oh, I can never do that. Well, I'm like, well, you know what? I have to, because if I don't, I'll make myself really ill. And I didn't, and I got a chest infection. And this is when we were doing our mock exams. And I got a chest infection, and I still came to school to complete my mock exams. And then Friday, I got home, and I was just out of it. Like, I woke up on the Saturday, I started vomiting blood. I was just really, really unwell. I got to the hospital, and they asked my parents if they wanted to give me my last rites, because they didn't think I was gonna make it.
Oh my gosh.
And I think at that point I was like, no, like you really need, like you just made it by the skin of your teeth. Like you really need to
pull up your socks. And take
better care of you. Better care of yourself. So I did for a while. And then came back to school. We did our exams. And obviously it was like coming up to the last couple of months of school. And someone I thought was my friend was like, "Oh, Lauren, you're really big. Like, you're quite chunky, aren't you?" And I'd already in the back of my mind been battling with like how I felt about myself. Like my weight, and I was putting
those
on weight.
Thoughts were kind of already there.
I didn't like the way I looked. I was just like, oh, like at that point I was like, I felt disgusting. And then she said that, and I was just like it's the last thing I wanted to hear. And I think 2 days after that was the first time I made myself sick, and I was at school. It wasn't something I did consistently. It was just something I did if I felt bloated or... And then things kind of just expanded from that point.
How do you think your diabetes impacted your mental health?
I just didn't want to be that girl with diabetes. And I didn't want to be sick or classed as different. I just wanted to be like everyone else.
Did you know any friends?
I didn't know anybody
that had the same.
As far as I was concerned, diabetes was like an old person's illness. And I didn't even know what bulimia was.
Yeah.
Until I got to about maybe 17, 18.
Yeah.
And then I was like, oh, okay. And then it was just something I used to do, but I could hide it really well.
Yeah.
And then I got to college, and my teacher was like, Lauren, you look really thin. And I just started crying. Because like, oh, the cat's out of the bag, everyone knows now.
So at secondary school, was anybody aware?
No. Not that I know of.
And it was that comment that triggered...
Yeah. It's something that was always there.
Yes.
But it's that comment that...
tipped you.
Yeah. And I associated being fat with bad things happening. So in my head, if I'm not fat, bad things won't happen. And that's what an eating disorder does. It's all in your head. The voices, how you feel about yourself. You could tell me till you're blue in your face, Lauren, like, there's nothing wrong with you. But I look in the mirror and see something completely different. And that's what it is.
So at 17, 18 in college, you, like, were aware that you had bulimia? Or was it that teacher that you mentioned?
I was aware at the time that this is what I was doing, because I kind of researched it. I was like, what is, like, why am I doing this? What is this?
Okay.
So Google helped, but I wouldn't tell anybody that. It's just something I did, and obviously I started working, and I spend most of my money on buying food to feed these binges. And I'll ask my dad for money, and he'll be like, Lauren, you've just been paid. Oh yeah, I had to buy this, I had to buy that. I was circling the area for different shops to shop in, so no one would be like, oh,
she's here
why
again.
She's here all the time.
Yeah.
But I worked in Asda. So I'd leave work and buy stuff, and then there'd be a Sainsbury's on my way home, and I'd go there. I'd hide my food in the wardrobe. I'd wait till my mum was asleep and binge out.
So no one in your family knew about it? When you mentioned before about when you were 14 and you were in hospital, and you were like, that was a bit of a turning point, like I realised I have diabetes, I need to start taking care of myself. Did a similar thing happen with bulimia? Was there a point?
That I needed to start taking care of myself?
Yeah.
After my ex-boyfriend was murdered,
Sorry to hear that.
It's all right. I stopped going to treatment because I had already been in treatment, and then I was like, all right, okay, I think I'm better now.
Okay.
I started trying to do my nursing, and then he was killed, and I just spiraled out of control again. And the nurse from the hospital came to my house and was like, we're really worried about you. We haven't heard from you. And then I decided, you know what? I'm going to do this. I'm going to do it properly. And I'm going to do it for myself. Because the first time I did it, I didn't do it for me. I did it for everyone else because they wanted me to get better. But I didn't want to, because I wasn't taking it seriously. I was still binging and purging. But the second time, I definitely did it for myself.
Yeah. I don't know how much you want to share about your boyfriend, but if there's anything that you want to tell us about, I didn't know that.
So on the 18th of September, it will be 6 years. I just got a phone call from my friend and was like, I've heard Carl's got shot. And I was like, can you find out for sure and then let me know? And I put the phone down. Because I thought it was a joke. And she called me again and was like, no, like, it's happened. And then his mum called me and was like, Lauren, what's happened to my son? And I was like, I don't know. And I went there to where it happened, and he was gone. But I'm happy that we were still friends, and I had seen him the Friday before it happened.
Okay.
And I feel like if I hadn't, it would have hit me a little bit harder. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But I'd seen him, and it kind of taught me that life is really short, and you can't hold grudges, and you can't be angry. And if you have a problem with someone, you just have to say it. And if you have problems yourself, you have to reach out and
absolutely
and get help. And anyone, like, if my friends are suffering with depression or whatever it is, like, no matter what I'm going through, I'm here to listen, because at that time all I wanted was someone to listen to what I was dealing with. But how can anyone know if you don't say anything?
Absolutely.
And that's what it is. Because you can hide things with a smile and say that you're okay, and you're not. It's easy to do. I did it for a long time. So it's just making people feel comfortable enough to say, you know what, I'm suffering.
Yeah.
And I need help.
I want to ask about what kind of support you actually had. So I'm sure your family were massive
once
support.
they knew, they were a big support.
Yeah.
But before that, all I had was me. Yeah. Because I didn't say anything. My mum would ask, like, Lauren, you okay? And I'm like, yeah, I'm fine, just tired. But I wasn't tired. I was suffering really badly, and I just wanted to talk. And sometimes it's not easy to, like, go to your GP and them to sort out, like, counselling and stuff for you. Like, the waiting lists are really long. So a lot of people do just suffer in silence, and I was just suffering in silence, and I was using bulimia as my coping mechanism. Like, anytime anything bad happened, it was bulimia that I turned to cope. And for a long time, that was my crutch. Like, I used that. And then when I went to treatment and I was slowly breaking away from it, I found it really hard, because I was like, how am I going to cope now? Like, what am I going to use? And that's when I started writing.
We will go into that. What kind of things did you do in treatment? Therapies that you found helped you?
You'd go from 8 till 4. A lot of it was like making meal plans. You'd have breakfast, snack, lunch, snack. And then you'd leave. There was group sessions. There was psychotherapy. You'd go on trips just to, like, be in society normally, but with other people that were just like you. You'd have time, so you'd do a timesheet, and you'd be able to talk to one of the staff members about how you were feeling that day. You'd have weigh-ins.
How long did you go to these sessions?
I did treatment the second time maybe about 5-6 months before I was like, I'm leaving now. They really wanted me to stay and do the full program, but I was like, I can't do it anymore.
Okay.
I'm ready to go. There's a lot of girls that are there, but I felt like was suffering more than me, and I felt like it was rubbing off on me a little bit, and I was like, this isn't good for me. There was a lot of things they were doing that I was seeing, and I was like, they were like triggers a little bit.
Okay.
And at that point, I was like soaring ahead of them. And I was like, I don't want to fall back.
Yes.
So I was like, I made the conscious decision, do you know what, it's time for me to go, and someone else can use my space because I'm ready. And I haven't had a relapse since.
So good to hear that.
So, yeah.
So tell me more about what it was like when you left treatment and what that transition was like.
It was hard because I was like, although they were, I felt like they were suffering a bit more than me. everyone knew how it felt to have an eating disorder. And everyone knew it wasn't as easy as just saying, oh, just eat. It was deeper than that. It's more than food. And I think that's what people get like confused with. It's not just, oh, because I want to be skinny.
Right. What were some of the thoughts that you had to challenge for you to, because it sounds like when you said it's all in your head, what are the things that you had to kind of almost unlearn for you to get better?
Listening to that voice that was telling you you're not good enough, or stop eating that, or you're fat, or it was listening to that. Like,
did you find that was constant?
I feel like it knew when to come, like when I was with my friends, comparing myself to them, or if I was out having a meal, don't get that. Or, okay, now you've eaten that, you need to go make yourself sick. It wasn't there all the time. Or when I'd be getting ready, looking in the mirror, don't wear that. Or it was just, it would come, it's just like it knew when I didn't want it.
Or make an impact.
Yeah. And I think that was the hardest part of unlearning. And also I think I used to use my insulin to make my blood sugar drop really low so I could eat more food. Because when your blood sugar drops low, it's like, I need the carbs, I need the energy.
Yeah.
And I'd make my blood sugar go low on purpose so I could binge more. And then I'd feel more satisfied once I've had my purge. And that it was hard learning, take the right amount of insulin and eat the right amount of food.
What do you think, like any bits of treatment that kind of stick with you that really helped? Or was it like the talking therapies, or?
Definitely writing down the feelings and sitting with how I felt at that time, rather than, this is how I feel, I'm going to binge. Because the binging and purging only lasts so long, and then you're back to feeling like rubbish again.
Okay.
So it was sitting with how I felt. Okay, today I feel sad. Allow yourself to be sad.
Right.
Today I feel angry. Allow yourself to be angry. Today I feel happy. You deserve to be happy. Allow yourself to be happy. It's like sitting with the emotion and just like you're allowed to be sad. You're allowed to be happy. Don't suppress how you feel, because everyone expects you to have a smile on your face all the time. Because life doesn't work like that. There's going to be days where, I feel pretty rubbish. Or, no, I feel really good today. And it was sitting with that and
accepting the emotions rather than trying to fight them.
And then writing down how I felt and looking back on it another day where I felt good.
Okay.
But always writing, not just writing when I felt sad, but writing when I felt happy as well. And that helped a lot. And also having counselling, like speaking to someone who didn't know me helped, because you don't know me.
Right.
I didn't feel like they were judging me.
Okay.
And I wouldn't have to see them all the time.
Okay.
It was just like maybe once a week. And then after it was done,
you'd say goodbye.
Goodbye, and then that's it. And it was like offloading how I felt onto someone else that wasn't like a family member or a friend.
Yeah, probably made a huge difference. Tell me more about your writing. How did you get into it first?
It was something I learned at in treatment. They were just like, a lot of people find it helpful, just writing down how they feel. And I was like, no, I don't want to do that. I was very closed off to the idea at first, like just being in treatment altogether. I was just going because everyone expected me to go.
Yeah.
So the first time I did treatment, I was just there.
Yeah.
I was lying all the time. Like, Lauren, did you follow your meal plan? Yeah. I didn't follow anything on that meal plan. I'd go home and rip it up. I wasn't, at that time I didn't want to let the eating disorder go.
Right.
And then the second time, it's because I wanted it. I wanted to be better. I wanted to get my life back on track. I was tired of being sick and tired all the time. Being depressed. I just didn't want it anymore.
And I guess that realization that it's up to you to change.
Yeah. And then I think a lot of people find it so hard. Like, some people can't pull themselves out of that dark hole.
Yeah.
And then they're just stuck in it all the time. And it's really draining. So I was lucky enough to be able to get help. Some people aren't that lucky. It's so hard getting help now with any mental illness. And the eating disorder list is crazy long. And this one illness that they help you by priority. Like, the worse you are, the quicker they need to help you, because you can die, because you're starving your body, and then your body starts eating at itself, and then your organs start shutting down, and then there's no coming back from it. But writing doesn't work for everybody, but it worked. It worked for me. And when I had finished writing, is either I kept the journal or throw it away, because I didn't want to look back. So I have one journal left. The others I just get rid of, but I wish I kept them now.
Do you?
Yeah. Just to look back and see how far I've come.
Definitely.
Because, I mean, things are bad now. Like, not bad, but things have gotten worse now. But I've come a long way. Yeah, so...
What would be your advice to someone that has had a recent diagnosis of either diabetes or bulimia, or both?
If you've had a recent diagnosis of diabetes, take your insulin. Just take your insulin. Take care of yourself, because diabetes is like a quiet killer. You can't see it. It does everything from the inside. Not taking my insulin, having a bad diet, not checking my blood sugars. I now have kidney failure, and I need a transplant. No one wants to... It could be worse, but no one wants to deal with that at 25.
When did you find out about
I needed a transplant.
Yes.
Last year. I'm not even on the list yet, because it's such a long workup. You have to be, like, fit and healthy in order for them to put you on the list.
Okay.
Your heart has to be strong enough. They've got to check your kidney for the right tissue.
Yep. And
because I'm having a double transplant, I'm having a kidney and pancreas transplant, I've got to wait for someone else who's my match to pass away.
Right.
So, and there's not a lot of donors in the Asian or Black community. So it's a long process, but technically it's my fault, because I didn't take care of myself when I should have. So now I'm kind of paying for it. And I'd say to anyone who's got diabetes, the best thing to do is just to take care of yourself. It's not that bad. It is bad, but it's manageable. And you'll live a long, healthy life if you just take the insulin, have a good diet, go to your appointments. If you're struggling, speak to your consultant, speak to whoever. There's diabetic nurses that are willing to help if you need it.
Yeah.
And someone with bulimia is such a hard illness to deal with. Don't feel ashamed. If you need the help and you want the help, ask for it. Because that's another silent killer. You think, from the outside I look okay, but the inside, you're just ruining your body. And a lot of people who have bulimia, it turns to anorexia.
Okay.
And it's hard to come back. when it gets too far, like my weight dropped to 40 kilograms, and gaining the weight was hard. Like, it was hard. But I felt better for it. I wasn't so tired. I wasn't so irritable. I became really, like, intolerant. Like, I couldn't tolerate anything. I didn't want to speak to anybody. And as I gained the weight, I felt better. I didn't like that I felt better, because at the time I was like, I don't deserve this. I don't deserve to feel better. And that's my mind telling me that. But I did deserve it.
Absolutely. And those thoughts were there, and you just had to keep fighting.
And I think the hardest part is fighting the thoughts.
Yes.
Of how you feel about yourself. Because you can have all the reassurance in the world.
But it's up to you.
But it's down to how you feel about yourself, and that's the hardest part.
Yeah, I think loving yourself recently has been something that we've looked at.
Yes.
And I know other organisations have too.
Yes. Self-love. It sounds so cliche, but self-love is the best love. Like, if you love yourself first and you tell yourself you deserve all the good things in the world, you feel better for it. You can't expect someone else to love you the way you want to be loved if you don't have that for yourself. And you'll always be craving reassurance and acceptance from other people.
Or waiting for them to fill your cup.
Yeah, if you don't accept and love yourself. And that's the kind of journey I've been on for a little while. Like, you know what? You're not too bad.
Not too
and
shabby.
you've done well. And the journey has been long, but it's been worth it. And there's so much more that I have to do and how far I need to go. But it's a journey I'm happy to be on. So, yeah, right now I can't complain. I feel like with an eating disorder, it's always going to be there.
I was going to ask you about those thoughts, because I'm inclined to say that they still now and again appear. It's not something that just completely goes.
No.
And if they do come back, it's kind of like accepting it almost.
Yeah.
Okay, it's a part of me, but I'm not going to let it
affect me or
overcome me or
make me want to
harm
go
myself.
back to what I was doing before. They come up sometimes, especially like now, especially when I get really stressed out with this situation. Not the best thing, but what I would want to do is go back to my eating
That would
disorder.
be like your easy option.
Yeah. But I find myself just sitting with, okay, I'm having a bad day today.
It'll pass.
It will pass. It's not going to be here forever. And the next day I'm fine. Like, I've had my bad day. I've had my cry. I'm okay now.
Are you surprised ever the next day when you're like feeling
okay?
I'm
just like, what was going on? Like,
thank God I just kind of
that
I didn't do anything rash.
I didn't. Yeah, exactly, because I feel like that would affect my mental health. I'd be like, oh, what have you done?
And you just take 4 steps back.
Because I'm like, what have you done? And I'd want to do it again. But
you've learned so much.
Yeah, like, over the years I've learned like so much about myself.
And how to handle.
And how to be more rational. Because sometimes it's just like, okay, I'm just going to do it. And that's what it was like. I'd not want to do it, but it was the easy option at the time. It helps for a little while.
Yes.
And then I'm still back to feeling like rubbish after I've done it.
It just sounds like a cycle. You're
going. Like it was just going around in circles. But now I'm here. I've overcome it. It's still there, but I'd say it's not active.
Okay.
And as long as it stays not active, then we're good. But for a lot of people, it's not that easy. And people suffer for a long, long time
without
any help.
So you mentioned writing is one of the ways that that helps you. Is there anything else that you do in terms of self-care? Or
Just taking time out for me, like doing things that I like to do, like spending time with my family or going out with my friends. Like when you have an eating disorder, you want to seclude yourself. You don't want to talk to anyone. You don't want to be around anyone. You just want it to be you and your eating disorder. And you don't want to go out and then people ask questions. And I started crocheting.
Oh.
Like an old lady, yeah.
No, it's interesting.
I love it. Like, it's really like...
How did you get into that?
My nan taught me. It's just something I did with... Something to do with my hands. It kept me occupied.
I can imagine it's therapeutic. And like how the motions are repetitive.
And you're concentrating on that and making sure you have your stitch
your
right.
mind's not
so
kind
your mind's
of
not wandering off to anything else.
Nice.
Have
you made anything nice?
Made a scarf.
Yes.
Well,
it's come in handy.
A snood. But yeah, it was just mainly writing. I felt like getting my emotions out on paper, like
that made a big difference.
Yeah, like writing how I would talk, like how I was just talking to myself, and writing it down. It made a big difference.
So were you actually writing? This is the thought, like the thought that you were having.
Yeah, like so. Like right now, the only thing I want to do is go to the kitchen, get my binge food and purge. I feel like rubbish today and the voice in my head is telling me that I'm not good enough. It was just literally writing down what I was thinking at that time.
There, okay.
And then I looked back at it the next day and I was like, why would you?
Wow.
Like trying to pinpoint what had happened before that to make me feel that way. So pinpointing what it actually was that was making me feel like that helped as well, because sometimes it would be I was just being irrational.
Okay.
Like my mum didn't cook what I wanted, or there was too much salt, or someone told me they was going to do something and they haven't done it. And instead of me saying, look, you said you was going to do this, I'd be beating myself up like, what did I do? Why they didn't want to do it for me? Everything was my fault. And I was just being really irrational because it wasn't my fault. Or my best friend said she'd call me back and she didn't. We're busy. What did I do? Why she didn't want to call me back? They were irrational thoughts.
Yeah.
And I know that now, but then I did something why this person did that, or why this person said that, or why did I go to hug my mum and she didn't want to hug me? Why doesn't she like me? It was ridiculous. But I was beating myself up all the time. And I think therapy helped me learn, like, this is all in your head. Like, no one hates you. It's because I was hating myself that I felt like everyone around me who said that they loved me hated me, and it wasn't true. But that's just how I felt.
Tell me more about your treatment in terms of, so we know initially diabetes, but then bulimia comes along. What was your care like at that point? I mean, was it integrated? I'm just interested.
Oh, yeah. They so I had a specific nurse. She was a diabetic nurse that would come in and help. And she also had diabetes herself, which made a difference because there was nothing more I hated that, oh, I understand how you feel. Well, you don't understand because you don't have it. But she was like, no, Lauren, I understand how you feel because I've got diabetes too. And we had a really good relationship based on, she knows what it's like, and she helped me a lot. So it got to the point where in order for them to actually believe that I was taking my insulin and stuff, I'd have to take a picture of myself taking my insulin. And that used to grind my gears because I'm not 11, but if I wasn't doing that, I most really wouldn't have taken it. So it helped, and I got into a routine, and then I was just like, you know what, it's not that bad. And I'll just take it. And I had to log what my blood sugars were. And that helped, because then she was like, okay, maybe we've reduced a bit of your insulin because you're taking too much and you're having more low blood sugars, which is making me want to binge now because my blood sugar was low. So rather than having the 2 biscuits and the Lucozade that I wanted, I'd want 6 or 7 or 8 biscuits and crisp and cake. And so them integrating the 2 helped a lot. And it just helped me learn a bit more about how my body was, what I was doing to my body when I wasn't taking my insulin and when I was binging and purging.
Yeah, I think there's this thing about understanding how, like, our physical illnesses, okay, with diabetes, as you said, it's not very visible, but it is a physical illness, how in our healthcare system it seems to be very separated, like the mind and the body are separated, and you know, you'll have treatment in different parts of the hospital. So that's why I was wondering, you know, whether you thought that you were treated as a whole person, like you were treated holistically. So you had your kind of therapies for bulimia, but then there was also this support that you had from the nurse with your diabetes. And, like, if that was separated, I can imagine it probably would have been...
It would have been a bit harder, because it was like looking after 2 separate people when really they both went hand in hand. When I first got diabetes, it was just... the care was very different. Like, now you can have diabetes and you can go and see a psychologist. Like, they have the 2 together now. When I first got diagnosed, there was none of that offering, or do you need to see a counsellor or anything like that. But now things have changed. There's more people... They're
aware that actually it's a risk factor for mental health problems.
A lot of people have that help now. And I mean, it would have been nice if it was there when I had first got it. But I'm happy to know that there's other people that can benefit from...
now.
You know, like different research and...
Definitely.
Yeah, so...
What's your hope for the future in terms of diabetes?
Oh, that they'd find a cure for it. But realistically, once you're... Obviously, you have type 1 and type 2 diabetes. I mean, type 2, you can cure it with diet. Type 1, if
taking your insulin properly.
Do you know, with type 2, you don't actually have to take insulin. It's tablets.
Right.
But if you don't follow the diet and take the tablets, then you have to take insulin.
Okay.
Whereas type 1, your pancreas stops working.
Okay, so this is and the one that you have.
And it doesn't produce insulin at all. Okay. And you need insulin. It's a hormone, it helps break down the glucose and whatever.
In your blood, yeah.
So I mean, finding a cure would be great. I mean, there's so many different like treatments. So they have obviously your insulin pen, or you have the pump. I think just finding a cure, because so many people are getting it, and kids are getting it as young as 3, or they're born with it. And I mean, the last thing a 3-year-old should be worrying about is having to take injections. It's just too young.
I think what you said before, which really like struck me, is the fact that for anybody who does have a diagnosis, or has, you know, someone that they know that has diabetes, is that it is manageable to an extent.
Yeah, I mean, it is a manageable illness. I mean, there will be times where it's out of your control. Like, you'll check your blood sugar, you've done everything correctly, but your blood sugar will still be high, and you're like, but why? Because you've got an infection going on, or you're stressed. Like, your periods can make your blood sugars go high. There's so many different things that affect your blood sugars, which affect how you feel. But I mean, the only thing I can say is, if you're struggling, say that you're struggling.
Yes.
Like, look, I'm finding it hard. I'm not taking my insulin. Like, what can I do?
Yeah, and not leaving it.
And not leaving it too long, and I think that's where a lot of young people go wrong.
Okay.
By not saying what's going on. Because a lot of people don't want to admit that they're struggling.
Yeah. And we think we're in this culture where everybody needs to look happy all the time and is always posting their good, happy times. So
and not the bad stuff.
No.
And that's
the pressure.
And you see a lot of that on social media, and people comparing themselves to these influencers that seem to have it all together. But no one's showing you the bad days. And if they're suffering, whatever suffering they're going through, like, you don't see that. So that makes other people think, I don't have my life together. I should be doing this. I should be doing that. I should have more money in the bank. And that's where people start falling into mental health. Like, I haven't done anything with my life. And that's not the case.
Yeah. I think putting things in perspective is so important.
Everyone moves at different paces.
Right. And we're all on different journeys.
Exactly. What is good for you might not be good for me, and what's good for me is not good for you. And I feel like people need to really step back and look at that.
And just appreciate themselves, their life.
Exactly.
And not compare so much.
Exactly. And I feel like we compare a lot, especially... I mean, men will never admit that they compare themselves to each other. And I feel like a lot of men suffer in silence. Like, before I went to treatment, I didn't know that men suffered with eating disorders until I met one.
During your treatment?
During my treatment. He was suffering a lot. But felt like he couldn't say anything because he was a man, and people tell him to man up. But everyone suffers. Whether you're a man or woman, everyone suffers. And it's just being able to not feel ashamed and say, look, I'm suffering and I need help. And I feel like that's where a lot of people get stuck, because they don't want to admit that they're having a hard time.
Yeah.
In the fear of being judged.
Yeah. And sometimes it's maybe for your loved ones. Because if you think they're expecting me to be such a way, it can be more difficult for you.
And then you don't want to be a burden on them. And that's another thing.
But you have to get past all of that.
Because they're there to help. And maybe, like, they could have gone through what you've been through and give you some really good advice. You don't know until you ask. You don't know until you try.
Tell me more about what it's like being... Are you on the register now?
So, no, not yet. I have one more scan to do with a heart doctor to see how my heart reacts under stress.
Okay.
Because obviously once you're on that operating table and they cut you open, your heart is like working overtime. So as long as my heart is okay, then I'll be activated on the transplant list, and then after that it's just waiting
for a match.
Could take 6 to 18 months, could be longer than that. I've spoken to some people, they've been on the list for 9 years, they've been on the list for 4 years, they've been on the list, had their transplant, the kidney stopped working, they're back on dialysis, back on the list again, waiting for another one. Just depends. So
you're having dialysis now? What's that like, and how often do you go? Since when have you been having
I started doing peritoneal dialysis in August. I did that up to...
Tell us what that is for.
So it's like fluid that goes into your body, sucks all the toxins out, and then you flush it out. Okay. But it's used on the machine. The work of your
my kidneys.
that didn't work for me very well. So I was admitted to a hospital on October the 8th of last year. I was there for 6 weeks. My doctor then changed me to hemodialysis, which is the dialysis through the blood. So it takes your blood out, cleans it, and pumps it back into you on a machine. And that works so much better for me. I was carrying 15 kilograms of fluid in my body because my kidneys didn't know how to flush it out. So I was just overloaded with a lot of fluid. And that dialysis helped pull it off. So I was doing that from November. I do that 3 times a week for 4 hours. And I haven't missed a session since November because it's what's keeping me alive right now. Without it, I wouldn't be here. So, I mean, I hate it. It's very inconvenient, but it's saving my life. So, I'll continue to do it for as long as I need to. I go with gritted teeth most of the time because I just don't want to go. But like I said, I can't live without it.
You mentioned that there aren't many people on the organ register that are from Black or
the Asian community.
Why do you think that is? Are we just not?
I feel like most of the people I've spoken to is because they want to go with their organs. As they came, they want to leave. But my thing is, what use are your organs to you when you die? What do you do? You're dead, so your heart's not pumping anymore. Your kidneys aren't flushing anything out. Your liver's not working. Your pancreas is not working. They're going to die with you. If you leave them behind, someone else can live through you for a little bit longer. Like you can, I didn't even know, but you can even have cornea transplants. Like they take the cornea out of your eye and put in someone else. So someone can see a little better because you've donated that. And I just think it's such a beautiful thing. I mean, when I die, if I could, I'd leave my organs to whoever needed it. Just take them because they're no use to me anymore. I like to know that a part of me is still here living through some person who could have lost their life because they just needed that organ that I'm not going to use anymore. Do you know what I mean?
I think everybody's got different views on it.
Yeah, and I mean...
But that could be a legacy that you leave.
Yeah. And with the new law that's coming in that people don't actually know about, if you don't opt out,
you're automatically...
They're gonna give your organs away anyway. And I think a lot of people just are very blasé about it. Like, okay, whatever.
I think, if I'm not mistaken, don't quote me, but I'm sure some other parts of the world that system's already in place.
Yeah.
Where it's opt out.
Yeah. Because the government has already opted you in. Because I think that it's a lot of pressure on the NHS.
Such a dire
need. For transplants that it's just got to a point where, okay, well, if you don't opt out and make the effort to opt out when you die, we're going to take them anyway. And that's what I'm currently trying to get people to just opt in, give them away. So far I have 2 recruits, which I'm very proud of myself for. But it's...
Do you think it's a hard gig?
It is. Because everyone's just like, whatever. Like, no one actually takes it seriously until it happens to you or someone you know, which is why my uncle has opted in now. And some random person that follows me on Instagram. And I was like, thank you so much. And they're like, no, I've watched I've watched your journey, and if I can help someone, I would. And it's just getting people to realise that you're helping someone, like someone younger than you, live a better life.
I love that you're raising awareness about all of this. What gave you the idea to start My Transplant Journey, which is the title of your Instagram?
What gave me... I was just... When I was speaking to my nurse, she was like, there's so many young people that are suffering with, like, kidney problems or waiting for a transplant.
Yeah.
St. George's, they do like an away weekend with all the kidney patients that go, and there's a lot of them. And she was like, there's so many people out there suffering that can relate to you.
Yes.
What you've been through.
So share it.
Yeah, and I did the page and people started following, and I was getting a lot of messages like, oh, I had a kidney transplant as well. And there's some, I'm like, I didn't even know that I know you, and I didn't even know that you had kidney problems or you've had a transplant.
Wow.
So it was like news to me that some people, or I'm going through the same thing as you right now, how do you cope? And it's nice to have people that kind of understand what it's like how do you cope with your bad days, and what do you do if you're not feeling well? And I literally felt the same way. And when I had the problems with my eyes, they were like, people were like, oh, it's a good thing you got help because I'm now blind in my left eye, and I wish I knew now then, because I could have helped myself. But then you get like some really horrible people that be like, oh, I'll give you a kidney, and they're joking, and it's just like, what do you get out of doing that? But overall, the
vast majority,
the support and the love that you get from people that can relate to you is really nice. It's amazing.
Great. Thank you so much, Lauren, for coming on our
podcast. You are welcome.
It's been lovely to see you again. And
it's been a long time.
Yes. Good luck with everything.
Thank you very much.
I hope we can catch up again soon.
Yes. And when you're wearing your wedding ring on the right finger.
Cut that out of the podcast, guys. I'm not even joking. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of the Mindful Muslim podcast. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, SoundCloud, and all of the others. Make sure to leave us ratings as well. I hope you enjoy it.